Oh, we've got 55 volts already. Battery is fully charged. Balancer is not on yet. 3.4, what's the highest? 3.44 volts. Okay, quickly checking the settings here. 3.45 balance start voltage. Requested charge voltage 3.451. And I've set the absorption timer to 0.1 hours. So that means 6 minutes, right? 6 minutes. So we just need to wait until we reach 3.451 volts. And then the timer starts. Guys, welcome back to another video here from the Off-Grid Garage in super sunny, super... Look at this. Again. Yeah, I know. Same old, right? 150 amps outside. And today we are having another look at the JK BMS, the Inverter BMS running version 15.30 as a firmware. Because I've read some comments under my videos and received some emails that this version is no longer reducing the voltage anymore after the absorption timer is running out. So it doesn't do a float mode anymore. And I want to test this. We have the Yishi battery here fully charged now. It is connected to the pull fan system. We can see the yellow light, so we are in absorption mode already. And let's check out the BMS 3.43. Yeah, we can see the balancer is now on. We've got only 9 millivolt deviation, so the balancer has just stopped again. We have already entered absorption mode. It is now 124. So in 6 minutes, the latest, we should see the voltage actually dropping to 55 to 3.35 volts times 16, which is 53.6 volts. Okay, so we can see the battery has reset to 100% state of charge already. That's cool. And we go into the settings, into the JK Inverter BMS of this bat calibration center and have a look in the parameters. So we are still requesting a charge voltage of 55.2 volts from the MPPT solar charge controller. So we are holding this voltage now constantly for the set timer in the BMS, which is 0.1 hours, so 6 minutes. So in about 4 minutes now, we should see this value here actually dropping to 53.6, and this is what the BMS then requests from the solar charge controller, and this will then stay for the next 5 hours, so basically after sunset, and then it resets and it rebulks to 55.2 volts again. This is the whole charging cycle the JK BMS can do, and this has always worked absolutely fine. So I'm not sure if there is a bug actually with the 15.30. And I've also asked JK to have a look at the code if they can see anything in the 55.30 which could lead to this issue that we don't see a float voltage anymore. So, but the engineer said he couldn't see anything, everything seems to be fine, so I said okay, I'll test it tomorrow, which is right now. Okay, we need to wait for another couple of minutes here until this is all done. Well, while we are waiting, I want to say thank you very much for all your support here. You can replace the 1 with a 768. Thank you very much for 94,768 subscribers. Also, thank you very much for all your contributions here, for all your donations, for all your comments, all your likes. This light is so bright behind the camera. It is the metal shed on the other side here, which is reflecting the sunlight now into this window here. So that's... Hang on. Ah, here. That's better. Yeah, all this support, your donations, your comments, everything, and your subscriptions makes these videos possible. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so CVL is still on 55.2. We are now at 131. So this is like 7 minutes ago. So we're actually a bit over this 0.1 hour now. And we should see this one changing here to 53.6. One thing I need to check, of course, is do we have float mode actually enabled? Yes, we have. So you go into controls and check if charging float mode is enabled. Yes, it is turned on, but it does not seem to request a float charge anymore. So these nice people are right. We have another bug in the JK Inverter BMS. Wow. Float mode is not working anymore. It is not triggering anymore. We are staying in bulk regardless if float mode is turned on or not. Okay, give it another couple of minutes here. Just to I don't know why I want to wait another couple of minutes. We have clearly stated here 0.1 hours, which is 6 minutes, and nothing happens. This has all worked before. Why is it broken now? Come on, JK. Okay, give it a few more minutes, and I'll be back then, and we see if it's still on 55.2. Oh, God. So, my friends, it is now half an hour later, and the CVL, the charge voltage limit, is still on 55.2. Nothing has changed. And also, if I change the RCV voltage in the JK BMS to 3.46 volts, for example, and click OK, we can see here the CVL in the Victron system goes up, as it's supposed to do. So it obviously still listens to the RCV. I wonder if the timer is not triggered anymore for whatever reason. 5.1. And then it goes down to 55.2. So it is still listening to the RCV settings of the BMS. And because we have reached now the 55.2 volts, the batteries are fully absorbed, fully saturated, current goes down to 0, and we're only charging with like 50 watts now into the battery. So this battery is now really 100% charged. And now is exactly the point of time where we should drop the voltage from 55.2 all the way down to 53.6 volts. 3.35 volts per cell keeps them 100% charged, but at a lower voltage level. That's why we do floating with lithium batteries. But no, the BMS is still requesting 55.2 volts from the solar charge controller, even after 34 minutes now. 36 minutes. Not working. Okay, guys, I have flagged this issue now with JK, with the engineer. Not sure, usually he's very quick in responding, but now we have a weekend, so not sure if they actually get a weekend in China. I hope so. I'll just turn off the camera right now and wait for his reply. So we will see us again in a second for you, and it may take a few hours or until tomorrow until we see the message and responds to it. All right, guys, see you in a second. We finally get some rain. Hey, my water barrier is not working and the gate is open. I'm very sorry that I have to yell at you, but the rain is so loud on the metal roof here. So, it's been a couple of days now since the last video clip you saw about a second ago. Just give it a few minutes here. Ridiculous! Oh, I think the shower is finally over. Okay guys, let's try again. So the problem has been identified, analyzed and rectified. So it is all fixed. Okay, let me walk you through what was happening. Alright, so in the JK BMS we have the voltage cell RCV, the requested charge voltage, which here in my case sits on 3.451. Which is, as you have already seen in this video, 55.2 volts in the Victron system or in your inverter. So the inverter will charge to 55.2 volts, right? So for whatever reason, I was under the false assumption that one cell is enough to hit 3.451 volts in my case. And this would then trigger the RCV timer. But after discussion with JK and confirming with them, it is actually not a single cell voltage which is necessary to trigger the RCV timer. It is the voltage of your whole battery pack which is the trigger for the RCV timer. So we have to multiply 3.451 volts times 16, which is 55.216 volts, right? So whenever we hit this pack voltage, the timer starts. Really? Are you kidding me? And then I had the next false assumption because I thought once this timer is triggered, it runs nevertheless. So if your pack voltage goes under 55.216 volts for just a second, it resets the timer back to start. So, and usually you don't have your RCV timer set to 0.1 hours to only 6 minutes like I have here for testing. Usually you have set this to 20, 30 or even 60 minutes, an hour. But every time your voltage goes under this threshold, the timer resets. And this is the reason why for so many people the float mode did not work anymore. The timer just didn't run anymore. While in a test battery, when we charge this with a power supply or there's no load connected, you can easily reach the 55.2 volts and hold it constant for an hour, no problem. But if you have any load connected to your battery, the voltage always goes a little bit up and down depending on your load. The fridge turns on, a pump turns on, and this small sag in voltage is enough to re-trigger your RCV timer again. So yeah, basically this was the situation and the problem. And I might be wrong, but from memory I thought we had this problem before when JK introduced all these timers and RCV and requested float voltage and all these features. I thought we had this problem before and they just fixed it with a firmware update and kept the timer running regardless what happens with the voltage. So anyway, in the new firmware this will be fixed and the timer just keeps running. Once it is triggered with your set RCV voltage, it starts running, counting down to whatever value you've set it, and no matter what the voltage does, if it goes above or below, the timer keeps running. So we will have a very defined absorption time now, which of course you can change to your needs in the BMS app. And actually this is exactly how the MPPT solar charge controllers from Victron work. Once the absorption voltage is triggered, I can see the light jumping from blue to yellow, and then the yellow light stays regardless if the voltage turns down because I plug in a vehicle or something, or the hot water turns on and the voltage sags and I cannot reach it anymore because it's in the afternoon. The absorption timer keeps running. And this is now exactly the same how the JK Inverter BMS will work after the next firmware update. Yeah, so guys, leave your comments down below if you have heard about this problem before as well. If you can remember, because you're a lot younger than I am, if we had this exact issue with the JK Inverter BMS before. It sounds too familiar to me, really. And they already have sent me a new firmware version which has fixed the float mode issue, and I have tested this morning already. Let me show you here what's going on. We have this graph here showing the JK Inverter BMS, the CVL, the charge voltage limit, the CCL, charge current limit, and the DCL, discharge current limit. These are the three parameters the JK BMS sends over to the Victron system, and the Victron system charges accordingly to these information. And the blue line is our CVL. This is the charge voltage limit. At the beginning here it was 55.2, and then I installed the new firmware. And I have set the RCV timer as well as the RFV timer. Geez, I've set both timers to 0.1 hours just for the purpose of testing here. And here the graph shows how these timers are triggering and changing the CVL, the charge voltage limit in the Victron system, precisely every 6 minutes. Yep, requested charge voltage 53.6 precisely, and then we are jumping back up and requesting 55.2. After 6 minutes, we are going back into float mode because the timer has run out. Requesting 53.6, yeah? So I let this running for an hour or so, and you can clearly see how the absorption and the float voltage is requested from your inverter or the Victron system then. So works perfectly again. Yeah, and just for the testing purposes, I have set both timers to 6 minutes so we can see these rectangles going up and down, up and down. Usually you would set the float timer to 5, 6, 7, 8 hours or something, so it resets in the night, and the next morning it starts with a fresh cycle and rebulks, charges your battery up again to absorption voltage 55.2 volts, and then the whole cycle starts again. But this was after the update this morning, so this is already perfectly working. As an additional feature, I've asked them also to maybe display the two timers when they start running somewhere in the status page of the JK Inverter BMS app, so the users can actually see in what mode the JK Inverter BMS is actually running. So this could be either that we are seeing both timers, and once they are triggered, they're obviously counting down, or maybe just with a status parameter, bulk, absorption, float. But honestly, I'm not even sure if they implement it. I mentioned it briefly and said, well, it would be nice to see that actually. And this would help us users as well with troubleshooting, of course. Because at the moment, we don't know what the BMS is actually doing, what it is waiting for. Is the timer already running? Well, we just don't know, right? So a bit more information about this would be actually very handy. I've also asked them with the next firmware update to fix the state of charge 100 voltage. This is obviously a bit of a problem with some of the inverters. As soon as they receive the message from the BMS that the battery is charged to 100%, they completely stop charging. As we have just seen, if we hit this requested charge voltage just once with the BMS for a second, it triggers the timer for the absorption, right? But your inverter will stop charging. So that means your voltage will go down and there will be no absorption, no balancing, nothing. And to be honest, if the battery hits the requested charge voltage just for a second, it does not mean it is 100% charged, right? Because if you charge your battery very quickly, it still needs a lot of time to absorb actually to get to the 100% state of charge, as we have seen from previous testing. The slower you charge, the less absorption time you need. The faster you charge, the more absorption time you need at the end, if you want to charge it to 100% at this voltage. So, and I suggested to remove this parameter altogether and set the BMS automatically to 100% when the RCV timer has run out. And their inverter will just hold this voltage for the set time. Yeah, and the BMS has enough time then to balance your battery pack. And after this set time, it tells the inverter, hey, I'm on 100%, and then the inverter turns off, which is totally fine then. And this will even work if we have float mode turned off, yeah? If you go into your controls of your BMS and scroll a bit further down, so you can see it charging float mode. You can turn this feature actually on and off in your JK Inverter BMS. Some users have inverters, they have built-in float mode functionality, magic stuff, so they want to use that, but they still want the RCV, the absorption or bulk voltage, and potentially the absorption timer for the balancer to do its job. So hence JK has put this function switch in here where you can turn off and turn on float mode. So as I said, even if you turn this off, yeah, you will still have the RCV timer running after you hit the 55.2 volts, for example. Yeah, and after this half an hour, it tells your inverter 100% and also resets the BMS to 100%. So this all will happen after the RCV timer has timed out. Okay guys, I think so far this video, I'm actually waiting for JK to send the new firmware over to me so I can test it before I release it to you. And they told me they will do it today. So they are a couple of hours behind our time here. So it could be late afternoon, early evening here when they release this new firmware. And I really want to test this and put all the information here in the video and confirm that everything works. Then hopefully they haven't broken anything else, right? You never know. So let's wait and see until JK comes back to me, and then I'll put all the information here in the video. Fingers crossed that we have a new firmware which fixes these two issues here in another second or so. Okay, my friends, I think this is a wrap for this video here. I still haven't heard back from JK about the new firmware yet. It is now 2 days after the last video clip you have just seen and still no firmware. I asked them on Thursday and they confirmed it will publish on Thursday. The same yesterday, Friday. They said, yep, it will happen today, and today is Saturday. As soon as this new firmware comes out, you will hear from me back. Either I leave a comment down in the video description here, or I'll just make a quick follow-up video, just a few minutes, because I'm not sure if the 100% BMS reset will actually work as I have just explained. The engineer said something about an issue doing it like this, but I didn't quite see why this could be a problem. And they also have not provided a firmware update for the float mode fix. You know, usually when they release firmware versions, it is like 4 files in this zip file. It's for the 100 amp BMS, for the 150, for the other 150, and for the 200 amp BMS. And they only gave me the 200 amp BMS because this is the one I'm using in the Yixiang battery at the moment. So this definitely fixes the float mode as well as the consumption calculation in Victron. So if you're keen, I can link this one file down below, but please do not flash this firmware to any other BMS than the version 15 and the 200 amp model. Don't do any force update to any other BMSs. It is only for this one BMS. So this is version 15.32 and you can try it out. I've got it running for a couple of days now, so it seems to work just fine. Float mode is working and also the consumption calculation for the Victron system is working. I really wanted to show you how this new firmware actually works with the battery and the BMS, not just talk about it. I'm a practical guy, I want to show you what's going on. But we are not there yet and now it's the weekend, So it may take another couple of days until you hear back from me about this specific firmware. It should be 15.33 or something then. Alright my friends, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your amazing support here on the channel. I have already started a new video. And I'm not sitting here and waiting for JK to contact me with a new firmware. I start another video already. And then continue this one here when I have your new firmware. But I haven't. Well guys, anyway. Until the next video, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye. Help is coming. The fix is just around the corner. Just stay tuned.